So we're on record breaking all of this down. And here we are, top Mexican drug lord. I traffic cocaine for the U.S. government. And that is the report up at Infowars.com, April 27, 2001. And it goes on. The logistical coordinator for the top Mexican drug trafficking gang that was responsible for purchasing the CIA torture jet that crashed with 4 tons of cocaine on board back in 2007 was told the U.S. District Court, the Northern District of Illinois in Chicago, that he has been working for the U.S. government asset for years. Jesus Vincent Zambala Nabila is the son of El Mayo Zambadata Garcia, one of the top kingpins of the Sinaloa drug trafficking organization. And it goes on to say that he released the documents in federal court, kind of like Hal Turner released the documents in federal court, that he really wasn't a white supremacist leader for the last decade, attacking yours truly every week, but that he was a national security agent, highest level, top secret for the FBI. And the FBI testified, yes, he is our man. Please don't send him to prison. And the judge said, I don't care. He threatened state judges. He's going to jail. So they certainly, and of course, they went ahead and burned him after hackers got into Hal Turner's computer. Patriots, by the way, and did release the fact that he was a federal agent at above the highest level, a national security level agent, not even known to exist publicly until then in the FBI. It's the same thing with this guy. It doesn't matter if he was running Fort Benning, Georgia trained commandos in Mexico to consolidate the drug trade and make sure the prices got jacked up because they don't like prices falling. Doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter. It will continue. It's like Geraldo Rivera stands there with a Marine Corps colonel and says, you helped grow the opium. He says, I sure do. It's for America. You bet. It's for your children. Now, continuing documents. Feds allegedly allowed Sinaloa cartel to move cocaine into U.S. for information. You always love the spin. When they get caught, they're like, well, we've been doing this so you give us info on other cartels. Yeah, that you're knocking out. 5 years, they admit. U.S. federal agency allegedly allowed the drug trafficking cartel to bring in several tons of cocaine in the United States in exchange for information about rival cartels, according to court documents filed in the U.S. federal court. The allegations are part of the defense of Vicente Zambadal, keep mispronouncing this, Zambadal Nabila, who was extradited to the United States to face drug trafficking charges in Chicago. The court in Chicago held a status hearing today and ordered the U.S. government to respond to the motion containing the allegations. And it goes on with the documents. And so it breaks it all down. So here you have it. And other big drug cartel leaders have come out and said, yes, we were involved in this same group, and the government would ship us the guns directly. Of course they did. It's a $500+ billion a year operation in the U.S. alone. Getting back to the issue of the El Paso Times, this has been reported on by Infowars.com. Then a few days later, the New American Magazine did an excellent job breaking it down as well. And finally, mainstream news has reported on this. And he's entered into the federal record that he was working for the U.S. government and allowed to ship narcotics in. Well, this is exactly what Sally Castile and others told us more than 5 years ago. And it's the same reports that we've got now coming out. And again, we have those articles up at Infowars.com, where top Mexican drug cartel leaders say that they were actually delivered guns by the ATF and other branches of the federal government. And now the head of the ATF has admitted that he had lied when he said he didn't know anything about it, and that he was ordered to do so by the Attorney General, Eric Holder. Holder then said, no, I didn't order that, and then later documents were released that indeed he did know, and that the White House did know, and of course we played the clips from C-SPAN of the testimony. And it turns out, of course, as I had remembered, a year and a half ago, they'd given press conferences admitting that they'd been doing a gun tracing program into Mexico and did know about it. But that was when they were putting their spin on it ahead of time. So by his own admissions, the Attorney General has perjured himself to Congress. Now we've learned they've shipped them guns into Florida, California, Illinois, other states to select cartels. And that's what's so scary about this, is that in most major cities, the police are deployed only to go after, because then they're compartmentalized, small-time people, and then, of course, medium-sized players that aren't paying their cut-in. But more often than not, another drug gang is dispatched to simply murder the other drug dealers, and then the police turn a blind eye. And it's time as a nation to grow up to just how corrupt we've become. And this didn't start yesterday. If you look at Prohibition in the 20s, alcohol use more than tripled, government's own numbers, and the profits more than tripled, and all sorts of alcohol poisoning happened. The police became incredibly corrupt. That's how they corrupted the cops. You really couldn't get cops to be part of drug dealing at the time because drugs were sold at drugstores over the counter. It wasn't even an issue. Drug use was a lot lower. It was seen as an illness, as a disease. If you ever dig into old junk piles out in the country, I know a lot of folks do it, and I've done it because you can sell the bottles because they're antique. And you know, the old medicine bottles and old Coca-Cola bottles and things. Sometimes the bottles are worth hundreds of dollars a piece. The point is you dig into old trash piles, and you'll just find anywhere you dig, you'll find them in the middle of nowhere out in the countryside, laudanum bottles. Oh, you got a headache? You got the flu? Drink some of this. It's opium. Coca-Cola had cocaine in it, a lot of it in it. That's why it's called Coke. If you don't believe me, just look up the history of Coca-Cola and cocaine. Sometimes I talk about that. People don't believe me because they're ignorant. They're like, Coca-Cola doesn't have cocaine in it. I'm not saying it has it in it now. It's been taken out since the late 1930s.